Yo people, Wagwan, Fresh here, Megawatts Productions. So what we're going to do today, a set of videos. We're going to call this Ableton is all you need. So just a little background. I do music production, mixing, also do live performance, stage execution, samples and stems using Ableton. Some people call the title sample tech. So what we're going to do today is I'm going through a quick process as to how I get stems slash samples prepared for live performance. I'm gonna be using one of my artists, that is Magikal. Song we're gonna be using is No Other. So as I go through the steps, I'm just going to talk to what I'm doing. Won't be using too much shortcuts so we could follow along with the mouse movements. If you replay anything, you could replay and slow it down, but pretty much this is how I would get prepared, how I would prepare the files for execution on stage. So when you open one of these default projects, you're gonna get these MIDI channels. We're just gonna be deleting those. Long version will be to right click and get that deleted, but we're using the delete button. We're just gonna clear up everything, leave that one. We won't need any reverb, so those channels would go to. So we're gonna change from the clip launch view here over to the session view folder here with your stems. So we got these from Parry Jack, man who knows what he's doing. So you notice the grouping. We have the bass, background vocals, brass, drums, keys, kick, lead vocals, percussion, and some extra sound effects there. So we're gonna be dragging those over right here. We're gonna hold on the command button, that'll be control for the window users. That would allow us to get all of those tracks on the separate channels, and then we got those dropped in there. So first thing I wanna do is to just check to see if we have a equal starting point on everything. So when we pull in everything, we get just a quick sound check. Super K, Mr. Vick, it's a dirty mass who can play. Not the crazy people them there. All you behave, not even behave, not even behave, not even behave. Them say no break it down. Yeah, we got that there. So first thing we need to establish is the tempo of the session. Easiest thing to do that with is your percussion instrument. So we're gonna jump into the drums here. So I'm clicking on that to select. And then we go into the expander here, remove the start point on this one, and then we zoom in. So what we're looking for is either force hit or a kick, and we're just using that to establish tempo. So a nice section here, zoom in again, move the starter to the start at this point. Then we get that from when it kicks in here, and we're gonna right click and we're gonna hit warp from here. Now we're gonna get some options to warp based on the tempo that comes in as default, but we're gonna warp from here straight. That will give us a nice reading as to the tempo. That's gonna analyze, then it's gonna warp that for us, and then it's gonna tell us that tempo is 159.76. Now we round that up. Sometimes there are some weird tempos, but in this case 160. If you're coming from a DJ background, you might actually already know the tempo of these songs, and you could always just start by setting that tempo, or you know that 159 really should be 160. So now we have the overall tempo. We're gonna just set the whole project to that 160, and then we're gonna unwarp this one, and we're gonna move the starting back to the starting. So we know the overall tempo that the session should be. Now we have everything lined up from beginning to end. So we're gonna come across to the beginning of the project here, and then we zoom in. What we're looking for here is if this is one of those cases where we have like a little millisecond gap at the start. Sometimes that would happen, but as you could see here, the first thing that comes in is that kick, and the kick is starting right on the first transient. And then if you was to look at the grid now, you'll see that everything that is tempo based is hitting exactly where it should be. If we want to make a quick check, we could just jump from the beginning of the project, jump down to the end, and we will see that that's still holding that, even with the keys. Where they're hitting here, we could see that those hits happening right on the grid mark where we want them to happen. So safe to say, we could start chopping up the session from beginning to end in whatever intervals. Now, we're going to be using this on stage along with a band. Usually I would chop up everything, save that session, then I'll adjust that session depending on how the band playing, whether we have two keys or one, we are guitarist or not. That would kind of determine how much of the stems elements we would want to keep. In this case, I'll just show you how we would do it for a basic two keys, guitarist, bass, drummer, optional backing vocalist. So we have a bass man, so we won't need to keep this bass. Background vocals would stay, brass would stay, drum stems would stay for now because the drums would help us to follow along a lot of the percussion. And in this case, if we solo and listen to this, this is a drum track, that carries some of the percussive drive. What we definitely wouldn't want is this kick. Right, we want to leave that space so that the drummer could do what they want to do and it doesn't sound as if the drummer isn't drumming. We also have the percussion track here, which is the percussions by itself. So we could still determine how much of this drum stem we want to keep. So one of the first things I like to do, I keep percussions and drums in the first channels. So when I'm doing my output routing, first set of channels would be percussions or drums, anything like that. So move up the drum stem and the percussion stem up to channel 1. Like to follow that with any other sound effects that we have. Usually the sound effects would serve as transitions, sometimes cues for the artist on stage, just in case things get a bit loud and crazy. Then right after that, we would want to bring in all of our melodic instruments. So we go with the brass, and then we bring in the keys. Then after that, I like to go back vocals and lead vocals. Reason being, I have this lead vocal as optional. In the end, I will mute it out, but this is there just in case we're doing rehearsals and we don't have the artist at the rehearsal for whatever reason. We could actually do a rehearsal with the lead vocal and we could catch a feel of the performance. So once we have that there now, we're gonna start to want to divide or chop it up into segments. So this is where the chip chopping starts. So let me take a listen so we could start to determine what segments and how we're gonna be dividing up the sound.
I don't want peace. I want problems always. Super K, Mr. Vick, is a dirty mass who can play. Not the crazy people them there. All you behave, not even behave, not even behave, not even behave. Them say don't break it down.
Right, so one of the first things we see there, all of this section will be intro. We see that the verse starts right here. So all of the tracks are here. We zoom in so that there really isn't anything to move around. First keyboard shortcut, we're gonna just click right here to put the cursor here. Then you hold the shift and the down arrow. That will extend the cursor all the way down through all the tracks. And then we want to split that. Shortcut for that is Control E, which I use most of the time. Now, everything that is around this section here now, that would be considered the intro. Now, even within the intro, we would want the freedom to break this up into further segments. Just looking at the waveform, you'll see we have some brass happening here, we have a rest on the brass here, we have a change here. We have the keys doing some effects here. We have 2 hits here, and we could see the harmony coming in here when this part changes too. So what I would do in this case now, same, click on the cursor, get that coming all the way down, Control E to split that. Now quick shortcut now, if it is that I've already determined I want to split here and I want to split over here, I already have the cursor across all the channels. I just simply use my cross arrow and I tap through bar by bar, and when I end up back here where I want that split to happen, Control E again, and that splits it. So if we were to test out now what that allows us to do, this would be our loop segment selector. So once you click on this, you have the option of going up here, which is your loop on or off. So that will turn on the looping and that will turn off the looping. So now, one of the reasons I'll show you why we would want to do that is that if we then build these loops, we could have the freedom to do something like this in the intro.
I don't want peace. I want problems always. I don't want peace. I want problems.
We could use this segment.
Super K, Mr. Vick, is a dirty mass who can play. Not the crazy people them there. All you. Super K, Mr. Vick, is a dirty mass who can play. Not the crazy people them there. All you.
Right, and if you're following at the top, you'll notice that we have the bar counter. So this is 4 bars, this is the next 4, this is the next 4. So what we could do, we could follow that pattern of chopping up the whole song into 4 bar segments. But what I usually do is follow it and see if the pattern changes from a 4 bar segment to an 8 bar segment. So now as we move down the line now, once the song starts, we have this other movement here, which is our chorus starting there now. So at this point now, what I would do to make it easier, I would follow along with the song, just using the cross bar, well, the cross arrow key, to follow the playback cursor. And then when I see we reach the point where I would want it split again, so that I want to establish another segment, that is where I would then use my Control E to split that segment again. So let's take it from the start here. Alright, there we have the verse starting, which is at. So you see, as I was moving across this, now that we're there, we could select that split there. So that means we have this whole segment being a verse, and now, sorry, this whole segment being a chorus, and then we into the verse here. Now if we were to further zoom out, that would actually allow us to see a clearer picture as to the segments we create. So if you remember, we took our intro into 1, 2, 3 segments. This whole segment now will be our chorus, and now we're establishing the verse segment. So once again, we make sure we have our cursor across all the channels, and then we're going with the verse now. And we're back to chorus, so we split there again and we establish a next segment. Now at the point, the level at which I do this, I would already establish mentally that if you look at the waveform, you have a chorus pattern, verse pattern, you see another chorus pattern here. So even without listening through that whole segment, it would be safe to assume that once I get to the end of here, this should be the next verse. I could make my assumption and then I could check. Right, so alright, so that's where the other verse starts, and it will go to say that this is a verse pattern again. If we see there minus the couple brass hits here, so in the first verse we had these brass hits going. It was just to punctuate the get on. This verse doesn't have the same get on phrasing, so we don't have a pattern there. So it's safe to assume that once we get to here, that should be the chorus back again. And that is correct. So once again, we get our cursor going across our channels, double check, right? And we click to do that split and make a next segment. Now, if we were to count this in the bar count, now we will notice that what we have from this chorus is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bars on the chorus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bars on the verse. So we notice is a 8 bar pattern for the song, 8 for the verse, 8 for the chorus. At this point, we don't even have to listen to the rest of the song. We could safe to assume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 will land us to the end of the chorus, and we split there, and we should either be having an outro or a repeat verse or a verse if there was a third verse here. So let's check that again here. We have a chorus repeat, but what we have is a chorus repeat with a change in the brass. So in this chorus we had and then in this segment where it repeats, we have a more subdued brass. So what we actually have here is a 4-bar repeat of the chorus, and then we have what we would call an out or outro. So we would spread that cursor again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can split that segment, and we end up with the outro here. And then we have the end there, and then we could just highlight that and delete that because we don't need it. So at this point now, we could get very intricate with how we divvy up the song. These verses could actually be split into 2 if we had wanted to take that approach, because we technically have this pattern happening at the second part of the verse, pre-chorus. Sometimes referred to as a pre-chorus. So this section, if you notice on my cursor is here, this is halfway through the first verse. And you notice in the second verse we also have so if we wanted to have the option of going to that segment of the song anytime that happens, that would then mean we take in the verses and we'll be splitting it into a verse, which is these first 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we split it there. So we now would consider that a verse and then a pre-chorus. We'll do the same thing for the first verse as well. So what we both divvying up the song in is in terms of how the music changes and also how the lyric or the songwriting dictates that the song is segmented. You could look at the waveform and see where certain instruments are and they are not, and know that those are segments. Then we also have these instruments that change are the vocal that would repeat a certain pattern. So we follow that too, because the artist would be performing and we would want to follow the performance and give them that freedom. Now with the chorus as well, we could see if we want to consider doing the same split for that freedom of moving around those parts. So for the sake of saying we want to give the artist freedom to do as much as they want, or just in case they come into the band room and they want to try some different things, we'll take that same approach, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll split the 8-bar pattern on the chorus, we will split that in a further 2. So we're just jumping around quickly here now. 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. 1, 2, 3, 4. Equally divided, and then we come down here as well to the last part of the verse, sorry, the chorus. 1, 2, 3, 4. Split that there as well. So goes to say that we have this song chopped up as best as we possibly could have it. Now this is in the session view, as persons will say. This view is also used like when you're recording songs in Ableton. So then what we're gonna do is select all of those. So we could either use our mouse and drag across all of these clips, or keyboard shortcuts. We do Control A, get everything, and what you want to do is grab from the top here, and we're gonna pull all of this information from where we are in the session view to the clip view. And once we're here now, we're gonna drag. I still have my mouse held down. We're gonna drag these over. Now the first thing I can see there is, if you're noticing, before I let this go, there is a segment that is missing there. So that means I had an error on one of those chops. So I'm not gonna drop it where it should be yet. That means I have an error to double check. So we go back to the starting of the song, and we notice, okay, we missed this, the chopping of this segment here, and that has us off a bit. So when we started with so now we're gonna just check back to see if in any of our segments we didn't chop it as we should have. And where did we go wrong is what we'll be asking ourselves. So we're gonna take off this, and then when I hit my Control A, I'm gonna be zooming in to see if I can pinpoint that, because I'm pretty sure I didn't make any mistakes here. But let's give that a go over. Okay, everything looks okay. So let's make that drag and drop that in. And you see, we're still seeing that we have a gap here, and that should really not be. So here's what I'm gonna do. We saw we do it slowly. I'm gonna do this over the fast way, just to get my mistake or error corrected. So we did 2, 2, 2, and then 4 bars. So I'm gonna do something pretty quick here, just to get us back. You could always slow this down after. So I needed these split up, and then I did 2, and there we go. Okay, and that's yeah. Now that's how I usually would have done this if I didn't have to explain to you everything I was doing. And then we drag that over here, but we already have stuff here. So we're simply gonna clear out everything out of this clip view. And now we're back to where I was showing you how simple we were going to just take this, put it over into our launch view, and now whatever I missed, it's perfectly correct now. Now this is what most persons would see on the night on stage. When they glance on my computer screen, they'll see a whole song segmented as such. Now what I haven't gone through yet with you is how I would label the segments over on the master side, or clip by clip. This is just the basic preparation of the stems. Now once we're on stage, now we're able to then say on stage Magikal, and then we have our segments accordingly. And this is me manually launching every clip bit by bit as it would go. But what we would do before this is we would automate the launching of all these clips. Now I've been using Ableton from about version 8 moving forward. At this point, the automation is the easiest it has ever been. So you go down to your detail view here. You'll go over to this icon that would be our clip launch directions, and we're gonna tell that clip launch to follow the action of the previous clip, and once the clip is done playing, we are gonna have it play the next clip. Now we're gonna put it on both instances, so it's gonna always play the next clip below it once the clip above is completed. So then this means once we're at a point where the artist is just performing the song straight down, if I were assigned whether to play keys or to additionally assist with lighting, or just to ensure that everything on stage is going smoothly, that I don't have to be triggering all of those and human error not allowing me to miss something. That would also solve for once we decide exactly how we're going to perform the song. But this is what we would be having in the end. So once I launch, you'll see that blinking light stating that we're going to be playing next, and that will play automatically. Now once we have the artist in the band room, we're not going to be using that lead vocal anymore. I think that's all for now. Next video I'll do, we'll take the same song and I'll go through how we label so that we can always follow better while on stage. If the artist is asking for certain changes to go to a certain verse or to go back to a chorus, that we know exactly where we are and what we're doing. Later on we'll do launching these with Ableton controller. I'm using the APC 40 right now. It is possible to do all of this without any controller. Numerous times I've worked without a controller, because once you have this going, we can always use our up and down keyboard and our enter button to launch. So that goes to say if I'm there at this point in the song and you do a wheel, I back to. And if I decide I want to change the intro loop, could be doing this while it takes a long while to get on, and I could hold that if we're doing an extension and he's not ready, and then you say 1, 2, 3 and we're done. And we'll go through how we prepare stuff for like Soca Monarch, where we have competition performances where the full performance of the song is necessary, and then get into how we program the music to move around when you have like dramatic breaks or additions to the presentations on stage. In some other instances where the artist might be having a bad night, like during the busy season where you have back-to-back bookings and you're trying to save your voice for competitions. There are 3 bookings before Soca Monarch. You're saving your voice for Soca Monarch. We're gonna be using a lot of the lead vocals in the performance, but we'll be going through how we do that in a tasteful way, so it doesn't sound as if the artist is what they would call lip syncing, but how we use it as a support. So thanks to Magikal for allowing me for using this song for this. Big up Super K on the production, big up Mr. Vick on the co-production, big up Parry Jack on the mixing, and next time on Ableton is all you need. We'll get deeper into this.